Hi, and welcome again to the Path to Profit podcast. I am Brad Dobson and my lovely wife, Dr. Manette Riordan. We are struggling through some technical issues today, but hey, let's do it again.
It's a Monday.
We're happy to have Tony Wilkins back on the podcast. Welcome again, Tony.
Hi, thanks for having me. I appreciate the invitation.
No, we're always delighted to talk to you. So I'm going to share the quote of the day, and then we're going to dive right into Tony's bio, share about him in case you didn't hear him on the last podcast. And then we're going to have a and writing and what Tony's up to and working on right now. So Tony, are you still hearing us?
Yeah, I can still hear you.
Okay, awesome. So our quote for the day is, "Creativity is contagious, pass it on," from Albert Einstein.
Oh,
Creativity
okay.
is contagious, pass it on.
Who knew?
Doesn't sound like an Einstein quote. does it?
No, I know. I'm like, really? All right.
Attribute it to him all the time, and I think that he was such a great example of creativity, and he was probably almost as prolific in creating new things, ideas as Tony is, right? So if I know,
Well, I don't know about that, but thank you.
So Tony Wilkins, and this is just one of the many reasons we want to have him back on the show, but he's one of the premier authorities on connecting people of influence to one another through relationships and long-term reciprocal relationships. He has an awesome internet talk radio show called the Small Business Radio Forum, Small Business Forum Radio, got that one backwards. It has over 250,000 people listening in every year. He has a new radio show, because he didn't have enough to do already, called The Coaching Hour. And he is a master of showcasing speakers. It's how I got to know Tony, was as a speaker, and working with him last year, getting lots of speaking gigs booked from working with Tony. And he is one of the hardest working guys I know in the industry, as well as one of the nicest guys. And there's so much I could share. I mean, he's written multiple books. He has a great new book that I love called The Career Whisperer, Behind the Podium. It's a step-by-step guide for anyone looking to launch a career as a public speaker, or it's great for salespeople who also need to get better at speaking to do better in their sales presentations. But my favorite thing about Tony are his two questions that he asks every time he meets someone new. And he does this not only when you meet him face to face, but when he's speaking as well. And those two questions are, what do you need? And how can I help? And he's getting kind of famous for asking these two questions. And you might think that they're obvious questions, but they're really not obvious questions, are they, Tony?
No, not at all. As a matter of fact, whenever I'm teaching a workshop, I ask those two questions a lot, and I do a handout so that people can literally stop and think about what it is that they need. And it's funny that you bring that up, because my new book, which comes out in January, is part of the Career Whisperer series. But this is on influential networking and selling, which is sort of the basis behind those two questions. Because typically when we go out to networking events or when we meet people, we tend to go with our hands open. You know, give me something, give me some sales, help me, you know, etc. My philosophy is more about give to get. Tell me what exactly it is that you need to get where you're trying to get to, and then let's build a long-term reciprocal relationship where we help each other get wherever we need. And it's been incredibly successful. I no longer really go out to networking events anymore because people are now coming to me. And the philosophy has really sort of shaped not only how I do business, but how others are doing business as well. I can't even tell you the number of people who come up to me at my events who tell me, you know, I ask those two questions, and it's amazing what's happening. The people that are coming to me, we're building these communities, we're helping each other. And so it's kind of a movement, which I'm very, very proud of. And really quickly, the reason why I sort of started doing business this way was because I got tired of going to networking events where, you know, when you have a successful radio show or podcast or whatever, and people know you and you go to these networking events, people always say, I would love to come on your show. That's the number one thing that I hear. I went to a couple of networking events a few years back, and I was surrounded by people who knew who I was before I even introduced myself. And they would say, oh, I would love to come on your show. And it was a little overwhelming. And then I started inviting these people to come on. And they would come on the show. They'd have their 15 minutes. And then I'd never hear from them again. I would email them or call them and follow up and say, can you help with XYZ? And I would never hear from them. So I began to realize that traditional networking wasn't working for me. It's not that it's a bad thing. It just wasn't working for me. Because I'm always helping other people, there are occasions where I need help as well. We all do. And so after getting over being annoyed by other people's, I'm putting it mildly, I realized I needed a different way to do it. And so I said, okay, we need to give to get. You need to ask people what it is that you need in order to take your business to the next level. And then let me tell you what I need help with as well. And so we help each other. We have this sort of partnership where we help each other. And so that's where that idea came from.
I love that. And
Thank you.
I love hearing that story. And every time I hear it, it gets a little bit better.
Thank you.
And you mean it, right? Like there's people that could say they mean it and they could copy your 2 questions, but you truly mean it, right? Mm-hmm. And so I really appreciate that. But I'd love to just back up a little bit, because you have worked in so many different industries, done so many different things in your career, and really creativity is at the center of all of that. So I'd love for you to talk a little bit, because if there's an idea guy out there, you're the king, right? Like, every time I see an email come through with you and it's like, oh, he's doing another conference or another workshop, or he's added a 15th radio show, right? So talk a little bit about creativity and what it means to you and why it matters.
Well, I'll tell you why. And that's an excellent question. I appreciate you asking. I'm at the base of who I am. I'm a creative person. I've only ever wanted to do one thing, which is write. And when you decide that this is sort of your path, when you decide I want to be a writer, and then you really follow that path, nothing can stop you. For me, I never take on a project that I really don't want to do. And as an example, one of the things that's not in my bio, a couple of things. Number one, I'm actually doing 5 different radio shows, not just the one. So
I saw at least 2 in here.
There are 4. Yeah. So there are 4 other shows that I do, which in all of them have a different theme. The other thing that's not listed is that I'm producing a new docuseries on and about speakers to sort of show the behind the scenes happenings of what goes into building a speaking career and a speaking business. Because what I began to realize is that there are a lot of speakers out there who still don't know how to monetize what they're doing. And so I wanted to show that. And that's going to be a 6-part series featuring a number of speakers and that sort of thing. So creatively, I'm always thinking about, what do I want to work on next? What do people want to read about, see? How can I monetize it? Because it's important to monetize your creativity as well, because it allows you to do more things that are creative. If you just do it as a hobby, which a lot of people do, oh, I want to write a book, but you don't think in terms of marketing. Who's your target marketing? How are you going to get into the hands of your core audience? It becomes a hobby, and you don't make any money, and then you start getting frustrated. So my thing is, think in terms of, what do I really want to work on? Commit to it from start to finish. It may be a complete disaster, but at least you do it. And then also figure out, how are you going to monetize it? How are you going to turn this into a business so that you can continue to that creativity? Because nothing stops creativity faster than feeling unappreciated. If you write something and then suddenly people are not reading the book, they're not buying the book or the podcast or whatever it is, it will stop you dead in your tracks because you think it's a failure. So that's my take. I hope I answered your question.
Yeah, it was a really good answer.
I love that you sort of represent this amazing synthesis of service, creativity, and entrepreneurship at the same time.
Yeah.
And that's kind of unique. You don't have a lot of people that bring all those things to the table at once. And some people are stuck on, they're very much artists and creative types, but they see the entrepreneurial side as somehow dirty. There's people that like me that don't have a huge background in service, and so it's not in my nature to lead with that. Yeah, I love that. It's just it's really interesting to me to see that all represented, and that you're you're fulfilling your creative needs at the same time you're very mechanically moving towards something that you can monetize and something that's an actual
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you. Because, you have to realize that when you create something, you're putting in your time and your energy and your heart and soul into that particular project. And what I never understand are writers, and I run into a lot of writers who say, oh, I just want to write for me. I'm like, well, that, number one, I think that's cheating the world out of your message. You've got something important to say. We all do. You should get it out to the world. But you should also get paid for your work. And then that way it'll allow you to do more things. If you're working a regular 9-to-5 job and you're writing this book and you don't expect to make any money, but you hate your job, that's horrible. That's a horrible situation. You're doing something that's really, against who you are and what you're about. And I've always been very conscious and connected with the sense of do what the muse tells you, do what the God in the universe, whatever you believe, however you believe it, do what it's telling you to do. Understand what a gift that is to not only take that idea and create something, but to also give it to the world. One of the things that you guys sort of tease me on is I had an idea on the way on Amtrak yesterday on the way to see my aunt, who I was telling you about before we started the show. And I'm going to be doing, a 10-day small business boot camp to cover a variety of different topics. Because, when you've been doing this for over 30 years, you sort of touch upon a lot of different subjects, everything from making money as a speaker to launching a successful internet radio show. And so September, October, I'm going to be doing this 10-day online boot camp for small business owners to sort of teach them not everything that I know, but quite a number of things. And every day it's going to be a different topic. So I'm really, really excited about it. But that just came to me on Amtrak. This is something I really wanted to do. And it may be terrific and it may be a complete, failure, but I'm doing it. I'm launching it.
I love that. That's brilliant. And I love that you just got the idea yesterday and you're going to launch it immediately. So yeah, can you speak a little bit to that? Because I think it's really important that people understand, and it's a lesson that we've been learning. I mean, there's some great opportunities to be really flexible and fast and turn things around really quickly. So how do you decide when to launch something right away and when to take one of those ideas and maybe let it stew a little bit or nurture it a little bit before you take action? Because I think part of your success is your ability and willingness to take fast action.
Yeah, I don't sit on the fence very long. As a matter of fact, if you notice, all of my books are about 120, 150 pages long. They're not long reads because I don't have the patience. I don't have the patience to sort of sit and edit and re-edit and re-edit that. And so when I get an idea, particularly if it keeps coming back to me over and over and over again, that's sort of my way of saying the muse is telling me you need to do this. I also have to look at, strategically, is this a long-term project? Like, I've got a number of long-term projects that I'm putting in the works. I'm doing, the strategies for now. But I also have short-term projects like this 10-day event that I'm going to be doing. So it really depends on whether or not it's long-term or short-term. How quickly do I want to move on it? What's the schedule like? Where can I fit it in? That sort of thing. One of the things that you may also not know is that in October 23rd through the 27th, I'm doing a week of workshops, physical, we're all in the same room type of workshops, not online. And part of that idea came to me because every year I speak during Small Business Week, and it's literally networking and workshops. That's all it is. And I said, well, why do I have to wait until, Small Business Week comes around here in San Francisco? It's in May. Why do I have to wait until May for the organizers to contact me and say, yes, we want you to speak again this year? I've spoken there for the last 7 or 8 years. Why not do your own and see how it turns out? It's a lot of work, I'm not going to lie, but why not? And so for me, and I guess if you get anything out of this talk, is create sort of the idea or the platform that you want. Use your creativity to generate revenue, to get your message out, to help other people, whatever your core value is. Use that creativity to go out there into the world and say, okay, I've created something that nobody else is doing, and hopefully this will help you, or you'll get some sort of inspiration to do your own thing. One of the things that you may know about me is that I do 14 different conferences, or I produce 14 different conferences a year. I'm doing 8 to 10 speaking opportunities a month. I'm incredibly blessed. But the reason why I created those conferences to begin with is because meeting planners can take months to get back to a speaker. And so I thought to myself, why am I sort of sitting there waiting for these people to get back to me? Why not just create something of my own platform? And, it's one of those, you're too stupid to know what you don't know. You don't know what you're getting into.
That sounds like Manette.
and so then
it's a natural talent that creates that. We just leap.
Right.
How hard can it be?
And then you sort of do it. And then what was interesting is that people started hearing about what I was doing. Other speakers started registering. We'd get a nice group of people, and we started building this community and this movement. And so now I don't wait. I mean, I speak at different organizations, but I don't wait on them to contact me. And my schedule is pretty filled. So I'm pretty lucky that way.
So I have a detailed question here for you.
Sure.
And well, it's on topic but off topic. So I'm hearing you jump in and you're able to magically launch a conference in a month or 2 months, and you do 14 conferences a year and 5 radio shows. So all of this amazing creativity. And as Manette and I are getting better and better at promoting our own stuff and doing that, how are you doing the promotion for that? How are you automating it? Do you have systems and people, or are you just winging it and throwing emails out there, or what?
Well, no, it sort of depends on the project. For example, one of my core tenets with anything that I do, particularly if I'm working with other people, is that they have to help promote it. So, for example, the conferences, it's in all my emails to all my speakers that I work with, and I say, you have to invite at least 5 people who you want to do business with. This is your core audience. These are people who hopefully you do want to get some business out of. So, for example, if there's a meeting planner that you've been sort of emailing and you haven't gotten anywhere, invite them to come and hear you speak. They don't have to buy a ticket because I give the tickets for free. And you help to fill the room. So, yes, while I'm doing a lot of the heavy lifting myself, I do have partners who I do work with who will help to get the message out. And that's kind of where the influential networking comes in. Because if I'm particularly stressed out or don't have time to really market something, I will reach out to someone in that market. For example, I work with the startup community a lot. So I'll reach out to my partners in the startup community and I'll say, listen, I'm going to be doing something in Silicon Valley. Here's the link. Can you send this out to your people? And because I've helped them along the way, they are now obligated to help me. Otherwise, they know I'm not going to help them anymore. So right. It's that partnership that I was talking about a lot. So in answer to your question, yes, I do a lot of the heavy lifting myself, but not all of it. I ask for help when I need it.
And you also are really good about calendaring. You know, if we have people like you and I who are creative, it's probably one of the lessons hardest to learn. Because I know you've already planned your conferences for 2018, or at least the first half of 2018. And I think that always knowing what's coming, back to what you talked about balancing the long-term and the short-term projects.
Exactly.
Really clear about what those long-term projects are. And I'm curious, do you plan a year in advance, 6 months in advance?
Well, I try, and it depends on how soon I can enact it, what is involved with the planning, and I'll give you a really great example. Through my influential network, I am now going to be speaking in London and in Paris next year.
Nice.
I was talking to a colleague of mine, Katerina Rando, who speaks at just about all of my conferences. She's amazing, very popular speaker here in the Bay Area.
Yeah, she's awesome.
And so we were having a conversation, and I was asking her, you know, you do these retreats. This is going to be probably one of the most ambitious things that I'll be doing. And I said, you know, what advice do you have? And she knows me well enough to know I don't usually ask for advice. I'm kind of a stickler about that. And she said, give yourself a year. Give yourself 1 year to plan it, because the bigger the opportunity, the more you're going to need strategy, the more you're going to need a plan, a blueprint to get from point A to point B. And so I'm giving myself a year to plan these two events in London and in Paris. Like I said, the 10-day program that I'm doing, that's kind of easy. I'm giving myself 60 to 90 days to promote it. That's another key. If you're going to do anything, whether it's online or whether it's face-to-face, give yourself at least 60 to 90 days, depending on the scale of it. If it's sort of a one-day deal, you can do it in 30 days. You can promote it in 30 days. That's an easy one. If you're working with other speakers, I would say give yourself 60 to 90 days to promote it, because wrangling the speakers is one of the hardest parts. The other part is also filling the seats.
What?
So
Wrangling speakers is hard?
Wrangling speakers is incredibly hard, and you know, speakers don't listen to me, or they don't read the emails or whatever. So there are always issues that, excuse me, that sort of come up with that. So you give yourself enough time to really give yourself some breathing room.
I love that. So tell me a little bit more about your new book that's coming out. I know you mentioned the title, but will you tell me that one again?
Yeah, it's it's part of the Career Whisperer series, and this one is called Influential Networking and Selling. And I've divided the book into two parts. The networking part, the do's and don'ts, how influential networking works, in my opinion. That's what I call it, influential networking works. And then the selling part, you know, the B2B cold calling, the sales strategies. What do you do before, during, and after a sales call? How do you close the deal once and for all? What do you do with those people who are really hard to close? So I wanted to do this because I really wanted to get the message out about influential networking and how it's helped me to build my business exponentially. And in the hopes that it will help other people to not walk away from any other event, networking event, what have you, with a stack of business cards that go nowhere with people who don't want to do business with you. That's the whole point. 99% of the people that I do business with now, I've never even met.
Oh, wow.
And
So
that
don't walk away from networking with a stack of business cards from people that don't want to do business with you.
right.
I love that, because I think that happens all the time.
That happens all the time, right?
Yeah.
We tend to go to these networking events, and it's always the same thing. Well, what do you do? Well, I do X, Y, Z. Oh, that's really fascinating. Do you have a card? Sure, I do. Here's a card. Okay, terrific. Now I'm over here. So now you move on to the next person. Before you know it, you have accumulated all these business cards with these people. You don't know anything about them. You don't know what they need. You don't know what they're interested in. And here's the key. You cannot sell anything to anyone unless you know what it is that they need. And the only way you know that is by asking questions. What do you need?
We're going to tie it all back around.
Right.
Awesome.
What do you need? How can I help?
Yeah.
And by the way, asking those two questions, it sounds simplistic, but asking those two questions literally forces the person to stop and think, I need fill in the blank, you know? And then again, I take it a step further because I have my handouts where people say, I need more speaking engagements. Well, now if I know that, I know how to help.
Right.
You know, or I need contacts in Silicon Valley. Terrific. Tell me specifically what it is that you need. And there's, in the book, there's sort of a step-by-step. This is what you do to make influential networking really work for you. It's one step beyond referrals, because there literally is a whole process to do it. It's simple, but there's a whole process to doing it to get the results that you want.
Well, I think what I hear you saying is that you're very intentional about the process.
Yeah.
Not just showing up and handing out cards, but you're actually very thoughtful about the process. And I know a huge part of that process is follow-up. And I'm curious, how have you been successful at following up? Like, well, spreadsheets, or what really helps? Because creatives struggle with the details of follow-up, right? Yeah,
I'm lucky in that sense because my background is in B2B telemarketing. As a matter of fact, my first book, Telemarketing Success, became a bestseller because of the details in the follow-up. And I try and keep follow-up really, really simple. I have a couple of basic rules. Number one, I use Notepad. I don't use Act. I used to use Act when I worked with other people, but I use Notepad, and Notepad really sort of helps me to keep everything on track. I can just click on it. Every contact has its own file. I can update the notes. I'm not a technical person or technologically savvy person, but so I need to keep it simple and quick, and I can get to the lead, and I can read it, and I can say, okay, this is what I need to do. That's number one. Number two, every time I do a conference or a workshop, one of the things that I do is I come back with a stack of business cards and those sheets that I was telling you about that I have people fill out, and I go through them and I prioritize them in accordance to what it is that they need. Is this something I can help them with right now, or is this something that I'm going to have to give some thought to? Is there something where they say, oh, I need speaking engagements? That's an easy one. All I have to do is send them the links to all of my speaking call for speakers. They can click on it. All the information is there. Or do they need more of an introduction? You know, in which case, before, and this is key, before I introduce someone to anyone I know, one of the things that I ask them to do is to, number one, be really specific in terms of what their needs are. Because I'm not going to introduce you to somebody, Manette, meet, Jeanette, and then sort of let you go. I really want to know specifically, why do you want to meet her? Why do you want to meet this person? The other thing that I do is I ask the person to send me their bio. Send me a short bio telling the other person who I'm introducing you to, who you are, and why you're someone of influence, why you're someone they should meet. Now, we're all people of influence, But if there's something that you do, something you can connect them to, the other party to, where you can help each other, that's important, because now they know exactly who you are and what you do. And most importantly, what you need. That's important. So you put all of that together, and there are a few other things that I do, but you put all that together, and then you connect the two people on an email, and you say, okay, I hope you two can connect. And then you end the email, or I end the email with, is there anything either of you need? Tell me what you need. I go back to, what do you need? How can I help? And so that sort of stays with it. You sort of, in a sense, I almost feel like I'm training or retraining people how to be courteous and polite and be of service to other people. What do you need? How can I help? I always go back to that.
I love that. I even saw a Facebook ad this morning when somebody was teaching that with a texting model, right? Is using texting, is reaching out to people and just simply saying, hey, is there anything you need from me today? Right? And just that reminder that you're there and you're there to be of service. And I think it takes all the stigma, the schmarminess and the fear out of sales when you lead with service. You know, creatives so often get stuck in the, I don't want to sell. But it's not about selling. It is, I think, about relationships, right? And when you always show in service, you're top of mind with people.
Well, not only that, but and you mentioned sort of an interesting point, because there are people that will come up there and say, how can I help you? How can I help you is not the same thing as what do you need and how can I help?
It's a great
distinction. It's a slight distinction, but it's so important, because it sends a message that, look, I am here to help you. I want to help you. Tell me exactly what it is that you need so that I know how to help you. Be really specific. So it's really, it's a slight distinction, but it's important. And trust me, I've heard variations of, what do you need? How can I help? None of them seem to work. So there you have it.
I think I even might be able to do networking if I started that way.
Yeah.
Not my forte.
Not your comfort zone, but
but you know what the key really is. If you have to go out and network with other people, the key for me anyway is you have to pretend like you're interviewing somebody, like you're interviewing me. You have to pretend that you're interviewing somebody. You have to be curious about who they are and what they do, so that number one, how can you be of service? And number two, is there, because we're in business. Let's not, let's call a spade. We're in business, so we're here to sell whatever, or try and sell whatever. But there's a way to do it. And if you know what the person needs, you know what you can sell them. And it may not be, I have anything that's going to be a fit for you. Maybe it's not, but I can certainly introduce you to someone who can help you. And you're going to remember me because I've helped you.
Yeah.
That's important.
I love that. It's such a great distinction. So what are you working on currently as we close out the show? What are you working on currently, and how can people connect with you?
Well, the first question the second question is easier. You can connect with me simply by emailing me awil267-487@aol.com. You can also connect with me on Facebook. I'm noticing a lot of people connecting with me on Facebook, Tony Wilkins with an I, Tony Wilkins. And send me an instant message, and be prepared to answer those two questions.
Yeah.
Your first question, what am I working on? As I said, I've got the 10-day online boot camp that's coming up. I'm probably going to do that around the end of September, beginning of October. I've got the new book that's coming out in January, The Career Whisperer, Influential Networking and Selling. I've got the new docuseries that's coming out in 2018 that will be based on the Career Whisperer series, The Career Whisperer, Making Money as a Speaker. So that'll be coming out in 2018. And other than that, radio shows and more conferences and
typical,
et cetera, et cetera. Yeah.
Tony.
I ask some business owners that question, what are you working on? And there's like one thing, but most creatives, you ask that question and it's like the laundry list of
15 different things.
10 different
I'm sure
things.
there are things that I left out or forgot or what have you, but I'm always working on something. I always need to be creative.
I love that. Awesome. Tony, thank you so much for your time today.
Wonderful
Any
talking
other
to you,
questions?
Thank you so much for having me again. And you guys have to come on my show, which comes on, for those of you who are curious, comes on Fridays at 3:30. And shoot me an email, let me know, and we'll get you booked on our show, okay?
Awesome. That sounds great. Tony, as always, a pleasure. And I love hearing what you're working on. London and Paris sounds like a ton of fun. And we'll see you soon. And for everybody else, you can go find him. The easiest way to connect is Tony Wilkins, Wilkins on Facebook. And we'll put all the other links in the show notes for you. So have a great day. Right. Great to see you.
All right. Thanks again.
Bye.